Welcome back to another episode of the Spotlight series with MailChain. We're in for a really big treat today. We have the brilliant and amazing DevRel from Tezos, Claude, who's going to be talking to us about his web3 experience and what he's most excited about in the industry. And this is right off of the back of TezDev 2023, which was out in Paris and a huge and successful event. MailChain even held a workshop there, which we really enjoyed doing, and it was really great to meet everyone. So over to you, Claude. Do you want to give us an intro and tell us a bit about yourself?
So hello, everybody. And Tom, thank you for having me. So my name is Claude. I've been working in the Tezos ecosystem for, it's going to be 4 years at the end of 2023. So it's been a long time already. I've been a developer advocate on Tezos. So first with the Takiro team. So Takiro is a TypeScript library that's very famous on Tezos to create applications that work on Tezos. So I was the developer advocate there for 2 years and a half, something like that. And then I joined Trilitech at the beginning of February 2023, where I'm also a developer advocate. So I've been working as a developer advocate of Tezos for quite a while, and I know a lot about the community and the people of Tezos, of course, the tech stack and all that kind of things.
Yeah, well, you're a very familiar name in the Tezos ecosystem. It's nice to finally meet you. I guess a great place to start is what attracted you to Tezos the most? I mean, there are so many blockchains and different layers and protocols out there. What was it about Tezos that made you want to get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, like a lot of web3 developers, I started on Ethereum. I was very interested in smart contracts and the possibilities that they offer for users. I learned Solidity, I learned the different libraries to create applications on Ethereum, but I didn't really connect with the technology in general. There were also like a lot of people who were building on Ethereum, and also I found it very difficult to find developers to help me when I had blockers or when I needed explanations about different things. On Ethereum, it was pretty hard to find somebody who was willing and who had the time to explain what I was doing wrong. And I think it was in December 2019. It was also a period where I started to get more interested in functional programming in general. So I just went on Google and I searched like which blockchain uses a functional functional language. And of course, Tezos was in the front, at the top of the results because of OCaml. So I had a look at it, and the technology looked very interesting. There were a lot of things that Tezos did and still does that are very different from other blockchains. So I started learning about smart contracts on Tezos, also Takiro. And it was also very easy to find help from developers who were already in the ecosystem to explain why some things were not working or how to make them work better. There was also a time where there were not a lot of tutorials or articles about the tech stack on Tezos. I mean, there were some, but they were very technical. So they were not written for front-end developers, for example, who wanted to build applications. So I started learning about all those things. And at the same time, I documented them for myself. I wrote down what I was doing, how I was doing it, to remember it for later. And then I was thinking maybe it would be interesting to share it with other people. So the developers who are coming to Tezos don't have to go through the same hardships that I had to go through. So I published some articles about everything that I was building. And and that's how I got contacted by the guys at Takiro to work with them. So that was my journey on Tezos, like learning about the stack and also sharing about everything that I was learning along the way.
I guess that's sort of why you became DevRel and Dev Associate for Tezos, is because you started on the receiving end and now you're helping other people try and learn and grow, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So I know what every developer on Tezos goes through at the moment when they come to the ecosystem and they want to learn how to make applications or how to write smart contracts. So I had to go through the same things. So now I am paid to make sure that it's easier for them when they come. They have an easier time and they have a great experience. So that's a very exciting job for me.
And that's really the core of what Trilitech do, isn't it? They've produced core modules and functionality to really help speed up the process of getting started on Tezos.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not really sure that it's the core of what we do at Trilitech,
Sure.
because there are a lot of teams working on a lot of different aspects of the Tezos blockchain. But of course, so what the team where I am at Trilitech is called Developer Success. So that's a team where we identify the problems that developers have when they join the ecosystem, and we try to solve them. We try to help them as much as possible. And at the same time, we also try to bring as many developers as possible to the ecosystem. So yeah, that's one of the main aspects of what we do at Trilitech.
Yeah. Tezos, both the technology and the sort of organization behind it, has evolved a lot since 2019. It's really found its sort of niche audience amongst artists and collectors and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, do you think, attracts developers to Tezos over Ethereum? Is it the programming language? Is it the community? Is it the type of things that you can build with it? What is it that makes Tezos so unique?
I think I would say it's the tech. Like the tech is very unique on Tezos, the way we approach blockchain in general. So the whole decentralization aspect on Tezos is something that's very important. And every time that we build something new or that we upgrade the chain, we make sure
Yeah,
that decentralization is still an important aspect of it. Like for example, when we added rollups this year to Tezos, the rollups are still decentralized. So anybody can spin up a rollup. Everybody can check that the state of the rollup is correct. So decentralization is a very important aspect on Tezos. So I think that's something that's very attractive to users, so to artists in general, because I think a lot of them don't like having their artwork stuck in some server somewhere, and they may be afraid that in the future they won't have access to it anymore, or that it would be destroyed. So when it's decentralized, you don't have that kind of fear. But it's also an interesting point for developers. A lot of them want to build applications that are decentralized, that are censorship resistant. So of course, decentralization is very attractive for a lot of different people.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those very difficult things to balance because a lot of people, if they don't read into the background of a technology, they won't realize that quite a lot of these Web3 platforms are just AWS servers running different things. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
a fair while ago, a lot of NFTs on OpenSea were just stored in like Google Drives and things like that. And you could just go and find them if you need it.
Yeah,
Luckily, we've grown out of that. We've come a long way since then. Yeah.
that's a good point.
So, in your role as a sort of dev associate, you must work with a lot of developers. What do you find is the best method for you to share your knowledge? I know you write blogs and you do presentations and workshops, but what do people enjoy the most when they're trying to learn from you? And what do you enjoy teaching?
Mm. Yeah, so I've been using a lot of uh, different ways of sharing that knowledge. So that I think the one that I used at the beginning, so writing blog posts, is one of my favorite. Probably because I used to be a translator before,
Oh,
so
cool.
I enjoy writing in general, and I also enjoy the process of sitting down and having some time to think about what I'm going to write before I write it, so I can find the proper way to convey some ideas that may be very complex to understand, but that are actually pretty simple to explain. So if you find the right way to share that idea to people with people who are not technical, that's something that requires time. You have to sit down and you have to think about it. So I think blog post is something that I enjoy the most about that. But lately we've been making a lot of videos at Trilitech, also to share knowledge and content. And I think those ones are better suited for that. So I can see that a lot of people enjoy watching those videos. Above all, if the video is pretty short, maybe minutes,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's a good format to share some knowledge. So yeah, in general, I think people like watching videos. It's a little bit less intense than reading, because reading you have to sit down, you have to be somewhere quiet, you have to be really focused on what you're reading. While watching the videos, you can do it on the subway and on your way back home. So that's something a little bit less involved. So it's also a very great way to share knowledge with developers and with users in general.
Yeah, excellent. I know that quite a few of the people who watch the show, these interviews, they sometimes reach out to us and they ask about how they can get started in their sort of Web3 developer career. And quite a lot of them have aspirations of being a DevRel or being a developer associate. So what would you say makes a good DevRel? I think you're probably definitely in a Web3 sense, you're one of the best known DevRels. So what skill sets make a good developer relations lead?
Yes, I don't want to say it's a very difficult job because it's not that difficult, but it requires a lot of different skills that a lot of people don't have at the same time. I think first you have to be technical. So you have to understand the technologies that you're talking about, and that requires time. I had a conversation lately and they were asking me where I learned about all the Tezos smart contracts and things like that. And the truth is that you have to spend a lot of your free time learning about it. There's no school. Okay, now we have some content online that can help you, but still you have to sit down during the weekend or the evening and you have to learn it yourself. So it requires some kind of dedication to learn the stack for the technologies that you want to advocate for. But as I think also it requires a lot of people skills. So you have to know like how to talk to people. You also have to be comfortable meeting new people and having conversations with people that you don't know. And you also have to make them comfortable during those conversations because you represent the blockchain that you advocate for. So when those people leave, you want to make sure that first you answer their questions that they ask, but also that they had a good time, right? You don't want them to leave and thinking like the guy didn't answer or the guy was mean or something like that. So I think it requires some people skills like that. And in general, I mean, you probably know a lot of developers. People skills is not something very common among developers in general. Developers are mostly people who like to like write code at home, and it's very hard for them to explain to, for example, to non-developers how the technologies that they use work. So there are a lot of things like that you need to learn. And so, I used to travel a lot before. So when I was a translator, I was what people call a digital nomad. So I spent 5 to 6 years in Southeast Asia. So I met a lot of people from different cultures, and I was in situations where you have to socialize with people who are very different from you, and you have to create some kind of connection. So I have experience in that domain, and I think that helped me a lot as a developer advocate, because now I can meet people from anywhere in the world, and I'm able to answer the questions about the tech, but also make sure that they have a pleasant moment and they want to learn more about Tezos in the future.
Absolutely, like you say, and I'm not saying all developers or engineers are the same, but generally speaking, not all of them are the most skilled at articulating and sharing knowledge that they have. I mean, it's difficult for anyone to do. Having that combination of technical knowledge, the willingness to try new things with your development, test out new things and new combinations of things, and then also be able to articulate that knowledge and share it with the rest of the world it's a difficult combination of skills to have. But it sounds like you've throughout your career as translator, moving around the world and now moving into Web3, it sounds like you've developed those skills over time and you really enjoyed honing them and making them better.
Yeah, and I think also that you really have to like this job. I mean, developer advocate is not a job that you can just make to pay the bills. It's something that you really have to like. You really have to like interacting with people. You really have to like learning new tech. So I spend a lot of time reading about new technologies, about Tezos, about the new things coming to Tezos. So I think it's a job that if you don't like what you're doing, then people can feel it and it's going to reflect on you. And so it's really something that you have to like.
You have to have that passion for it. And I think that is the standout thing between a good DevRel and an amazing DevRel is someone that has such passion. And that passion comes through and it makes the people they're talking with excited and they want to do more and they want to learn more. So, yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So what are you working on at the moment with Trilitech? Is there any big things coming up that we should know about? Or
I know it's a little bit secret, so I cannot. I'm joking. I never know how much I can share, but at the moment I'm not working on anything top secret, so it's okay, I can share. So yeah, at the moment at Trilitech in the developer success team, we're focused on two main things. The first one is documentation. So it's true that in the past, Tezos was lacking good documentation. The documentation was fragmented. It was a little bit all over the place on the internet. So we're trying to bring all the documentation together in the same place. So when developers want to learn about Tezos, they have one entry point into the ecosystem where they can learn about the tech. We worked already for the past 6 months to bring a lot of articles and tutorials together for documentation, and also content creation at the moment. So we work a lot on creating content regarding first the tech on Tezos, of course, but also about Tezos in general. So I make videos that are talking about Tezos subjects in general. For a few months, I had somebody joined us in the video. So you probably saw Sasha during the videos. So yeah, we are going to continue making that kind of content to explain both the tech, but also the Tezos ecosystem, what's happening in the ecosystem, and explain like different aspects of Tezos. So I think documentation and content creation at the moment are very important parts of the job that we're doing here.
I know we're in a bit of a slump in the market at the moment, but once that does pick up, you'll see so many more developers coming back or starting for the first time, and you're really setting the foundations for all those new people that will be joining us, which is very important. Speaking of the Tezos ecosystem, what would you say are your sort of maybe 3 favorite or notable and interesting projects that are in the ecosystem at the moment? From our side, we've been working closely with Tezos Domains because we're a communications tool and they're an excellent naming service on Tezos. And there's loads of other projects out there. I was just curious, what are things that you find interesting or might have caught your eye recently?
Yeah, so in general, I like DeFi a lot. So I check the DeFi projects on Tezos. They've been evolving a lot in the past 2 years. I think also all the NFT scene is very interesting on Tezos. I can see that there are some platforms that are working on different new features. There was Object that had a new feature a few months ago, Object One, that looked very, very interesting. So yeah, regularly there are some projects like that come on Tezos. Now I think I'm a little bit also more focused on rollups. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with rollups. I've been working a little bit with the EVM rollup to test it and to check what we can do with it. But it looks like there's some interest to build on Tezos rollups. So I think that's something I'm going to watch closely in the future.
We also very recently had TezDev 2023, a very big success. Do you have any particular highlights from the event?
Yeah, so regarding TezDev, I was involved with the organization this year, so I spent a lot of time actually like working while everybody was having fun. So I just spent a lot of time like with people, but I did a few things. I interviewed a few people from the ecosystem, so that was very interesting to meet them. I was also very lucky because I met one of my favorite people on Tezos, so Michael Zaikin from Baking Bad. We've been working together for 4 years. I wrote a very big Microsoft tutorial with Baking Bad. So that was my first job on Tezos. And yeah, that was 4 years ago. So that was very nice to meet him for the first time. It's always very nice to meet people from the ecosystem. I met a bunch of people from Tezos Commons, and I met them again at TezDev. So for some of them, it was the second or third time this year that we were meeting. Even if everything is online, it's always very nice to meet people face to face and have that kind of interaction with them. Regarding ECC, I don't know if you saw that on Twitter, but we handed out croissants. Yeah, so I think that was one of the highlights for me for that week. Like that was a great experience. We met a lot of people. I think one of the things that was really nice is that a lot of people heard about Tezos. So maybe they didn't know exactly what we do or what kind of projects we have, but I mean the name was out there. So they knew about Tezos. They have some knowledge more or less about either NFTs or DeFi or that kind of things. So it was really interesting to interact with those people while they were waiting to get in at ECC. So yeah, I think that was one of the best experiences I had during that week.
Plus, it's always nice to share local food with people, especially early in the morning when they're hungry. So yeah, probably made a lot of people
Yeah,
very
yeah.
happy. So one of the questions that we always round sort of these discussions off with is, what kind of advice can you offer to anybody that's starting out in Web3 as a developer for the first time?
I think maybe that's going to come from my experience, but I think you should build as much as possible. So there's no amount of books or articles that you can read that's going to give you the knowledge
Yeah,
that you get when you actually code yourself, when you actually build something. And I see a lot of developers coming to Tezos, and like on Monday, they just learn about smart contracts, and on Wednesday, they already want to deploy an NFT marketplace with the front end. And I'm like, okay, I like your enthusiasm, but it takes time. Like you have to build some muscle memory, and you have to digest that knowledge. And there are a lot of things when I teach people, for example, about smart contract development on Tezos, sometimes they have errors in their code. And I just look at the code and I know where the error is and I can correct it. And they ask me, how do you know that? And the answer is that I made that error like 100 times. So that's how I know.
yeah, you have to do it. Get your hands dirty and get stuck in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, yeah, I know it's frustrating because in general, when you're a builder, you just want to build right away and you want to build something great. You don't want to create a smart contract that adds two numbers together. That's boring. But yeah, you still have to go through that. That's a process. And yeah, I think it's very important not to skip any steps and to go through that process. And it's going to make you a better developer. You're going to understand why the code is not working. It's going to be very fast to see what's wrong. So I think one of the advice that I would give is like be patient and build as much as possible.
yeah, that's an excellent piece of advice. It's definitely the best way to learn in this space is to learn by doing. So, and if you can find a partner or community that gives you support and advice and mentorship, that's even better. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and on Tezos, the community is always very helpful. Even myself, like I receive a lot of questions on Twitter, on Telegram. So I don't always have the time to answer right away, but in general, I try to answer within 24, 48 hours to give an answer or to give a link where that person can find an answer. And I know that a lot of developers on Tezos do that. They provide answers very quickly. It's one of the strengths of the developer community on Tezos is to be very helpful, to be very available for questions. So don't hesitate and ask them.
Absolutely fantastic advice. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story and your journey into Tezos with us. I'm really excited to see what comes next. I'll make sure to look out for that new content and that new material as well. And
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.